Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome in to another edition of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I'm Bennett Conlon, joined by Jack Fitzpatrick. Jack, will you apologize to Marlon Eichenberry?
I just tweeted that. I quote tweeted the tweet from the JMU Sports News account, and you'll have to tune in. You'll have to wait till we get to baseball talk to see if an apology is incoming. I will say they
apology.
They did lose today. I have to stick to my guns.
Typical hater.
I'm a hater. But no, we'll break it down a little bit later when we talk about them beating Arkansas yesterday. Great win for the program. But it's a long season, and we'll see if I'm apologizing in a little bit.
We got a fun podcast today. Swim Dive won a Sunbelt title. Basketball.
Big time. Yeah, big time.
Good
Some
stuff.
people saying that that should be covered more. Some people
are saying that. We're here. We're covering it. Big win for them. You got both basketballs winning on senior day, which is good. I feel like sometimes there's that emotional letdown weirdly on those days, and it kind of stinks. I talked to a coach. It was for women's soccer. I was doing a Winthrop game, and I was calling it on their senior day and asked the coach, like, is there a different, like, emotional standard? Is there a different way that you prepare for these games? Because some of these guys aren't going to be on your team next year. And like, this is an emotional journey of these 4-year starters who you've gone with. And he was really blunt with me. He was like, yeah, it's different. But like, once the whistle blows, they have to be able to like zone back in and like play your 90 minutes. And then you can celebrate hopefully with a win afterwards. But there is a little bit of a different mindset going into it, specifically for your seniors. And for JMU men's basketball, especially, that's a team with all of their key players are seniors. Bickerstaff, Green, Edwards, Holman Smith. Yeah, everybody, all the big names.
But a lot of big names with the seniors. So then like they're playing even subconsciously, that's in the back of your mind, which is why I think we saw only a 7-point win. But speaking of 7-point wins, you can bet on 7-point games all the time with Bet Online, as it continues to be your number one source for all of your basketball wagering needs, including pro and college hoops throughout the year. Up to the minute odds, stats, and trends. You can follow your favorite team's path to the playoffs with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or mobile device. Head to Bet Online today to become part of the team. And remember to use promo code BELIEVE. That's promo code BLEAV to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Heck yeah. We love to hear that. We also love that it's Monday, because you know what that means.
Minuteman Monday.
And usually we record Mondays a little bit later. Today, 4 o'clock, the holiday, so you can listen to this, then go over to 3 Notch, get your $3 Minutemans. Pretty good deal there. Tomorrow, go back again. You get half off cases. Take a couple days off. Take a break. Relax a little bit. Friday, you go back. First Tap Friday, they got a new brew for you. I mean, you can really spend your whole week plus your weekend at 3 Notch and have a pretty good time. Responsibly, of course.
Responsibly. Always drink responsibly. Always drink 3 Notched. And while you're drinking 3 Notch, maybe you get a little tipsy and you decide you want to pop the question to your significant other. And you're like, where can I go to get engaged?
There's a reason Christopher William Jewelers has been voted best of Virginia year after year. It's not just one thing that sets us apart. It's everything. It's the selection, extensive and unmatched, with every engagement ring, loose diamond, and fashion jewelry chosen for quality and brilliance. It's the service. From our diamond experts to our master goldsmith, our team shares a passion for what they do, and it shows. It's the atmosphere, both glamorous and laid back. See for yourself why people can't stop talking about Christopher William Jewelers in Harrisonburg and Weir's Cave.
Let's start with basketball.
I love it. Let's go into it. You got the outline today. You're the outline king.
Outline king. It's pretty sparse today because I did it right before. But men's basketball picked up a pair of wins. They've won 6 in a row. They're 24-3. 24 wins ties a single season record for the program, which should, barring an absolute collapse over the final 4 games in the conference tournament, should be broken here in the coming weeks. Good stuff, I think, mostly this week, although weirdly, the 7-point win over Georgia Southern might honestly kill like the at-large dreams.
What if they go out and like win by like 30 the next like 4 games? They're all on the road.
That's what they're going to need to do to get an at-large. But regardless of the at-large stuff, 24-3 is awesome. They're dominating the Sun Belt. We've talked about this before, but I mean, this is just a few years ago, a team that you talk about like, any 6-game winning streak would have had us overjoyed. I mean, they couldn't win more than 3 in a
3-game
row.
winning streak.
Yeah.
Any 3-game winning streak during the era, we would have been like, at large.
Exactly. And now they're 24-3.
This is an insane season for men's basketball. Coming off of that 7-point win against Georgia State, they did blow out Georgia Southern, the 7-point win. I get my Georgia schools confused. My apologies. They did blow out Georgia State by 20, which is kind of funny because Georgia Southern's the actual, like the worst of the two teams. But Southern somehow they've done really well in Sun Belt play and they stuck around in that one.
Yeah, they looked good too. Yeah, Daniel Merriman put that in the comments. They played really well. They did. They were making like contested shots. I was very impressed with them, which is a little bit shocking. I think for JMU, when you're talking about like wanting the metrics to look good for an at-large, just highly unfortunate, right? That a team that didn't win a non-conference game all year is knocking down contested 3 and pull-up jumpers in the lane and stuff like that. It happens. But hey, Terrence Edwards, I thought was phenomenal in both games. 3-point jumper looked really good.
Yes.
On senior day, he's getting to the line a lot the last couple. So some great signs there for a guy I think has a pretty strong case to win Conference Player of the Year.
Yeah, at this point, I think according to, let me check with Ken Palm, but for a really long time, it was between Terrence Edwards and TJ Bickerstaff. It's still between Terrence Edwards and TJ Bickerstaff. Bickerstaff doesn't have necessarily like the wow moments. Like he did at the end of senior day, that slam with like 20 seconds left to go up, I think 10. And then Georgia Southern hit a 3 at the end of it to make it 7. But Bickerstaff is just going to get you a double-double and you're going to like it. And then Terrence Edwards is going to do some things that makes you pull your hair out at times. But at other times, he's just absolutely electric from deep. He was really, really solid in the second half against Southern, which was kind of important in that game because if not for his fantastic second half play, they may have lost. Daniel Merriman, TJ Bickerstaff feels like he's on a bit of a minutes restriction too. Wouldn't be shocked at that because he has been dealing with like injuries and sickness throughout the season. So he might just not be at 100% game shape. It also could be because Jalen Carey is a monster and they never play them both on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, they don't, even though they're both really good. They don't ever seem to really need to go big in the Sun Belt. Maybe that would have been funny.
Even if they did, I don't think they would play them both on the floor. I think they'd bring in Jerome Roberson or like not Jalen Carey and TJ Bickerstaff on the court at the same time.
They like to keep them separate, and it's working pretty well for them. So they're both playing well. They have a post presence for the first time in years. The guard play is good. That's really cool. It's also cool to see a guy like Edwards develop. His offensive rating his freshman year was 90, and he shot. It's closer to like 110 now, and he shot. I think he was below 50% as a free throw shooter, and now he's over 80% and is one of their most reliable guys at the line. He has kind of an unorthodox looking jumper, but it goes down a lot.
Yeah, it's very unorthodox. Yeah, his freshman year, a 90.2 offensive rating. He peaked out at 2023. Last season, he was used on took up about 56% of the team's minutes, had 109 offensive rating, and that was his best overall season. However, this year he's being used at a much, much higher clip. 75% of the minutes he's on the floor. And he has 108 offensive rating, so not a huge drop-off. He's used on more offensive possessions. He takes more of the team shots. He takes 27.4% of the team shots. And he has a 47.6, ooh, not 0.6, effective field goal percentage.
He's been awesome, man. So shout out to him. I know he's not a perfect basketball player, no, this level.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I was saying that he's been awesome.
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect at this level, especially. So like when we picked him, like he's still very good. Like he's the best player in the conference. So we're like, oh, I wish you would pass, like know exactly when to pass and exactly when to take shots and exactly when to read a defense like this. Easier said than done, especially when you're like driving into a 7-footer and having to make a split-second decision. He's been phenomenal. Seems like his JMU career is over, which is not unexpected, even though it sort of led to like a weird thing this week with JMU fans almost seeming surprised, even though he's talked about this kind of a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
It
all
seems
weird.
like going. I think he went on Isaac Ugu's podcast last year and said this was going to be his last year, or at least hinted at that.
Yeah, I thought it was always known that this was his last year. I always assumed this would be his last year. He goes and gets an NIL bag and then tries to go pro,
Yeah, I think
which
he'll
sounds like
probably
it's
do this.
still
Yeah,
that. Like,
it's the thing where you can put your name in, and the NBA guys give you feedback, and you don't actually have to enter the draft. You can withdraw and then go somewhere else. That
yeah,
seems like it would make a lot of sense.
that seems like the route that I think Terrence Edwards would do. And kind of shocked that Matt Lewis didn't do it or anything like that. But good to see. Michael Green continues to be very interesting in his conference play. He was electric against Akron last Saturday, where he, like, I think went 4 or 5 from deep. Didn't attempt a 3 this weekend.
Yeah, that's odd.
Like, he's just such an interesting player. Like, when he's on, I would argue he's one of the best players on the team. I think early on in the season, I was saying, is Michael Green, is MG3 the sneaky best player on the team? Had the slow start to 2024. Then against Akron, it looked like he was back. But now if you look at his conference and non-conference splits, you're like, huh. They play him in a very different role in conference games.
Confusing, but he can still create. He seems like his confidence is mostly back.
Yeah.
He can create off the
No
dribble a
points
little bit.
against Southern, though.
3 assists, I think, in that one.
Yeah, you're right. With one.
But he was like
No.
0 for 2 from the line or something.
It's so weird.
But he was also, I forget whenever he went to the line, something happened near the baseline. He shot his first one, like cracking up, laughing. So I don't know exactly the situation, but I just remember him like cackling and then shooting and missing. It was like, what is happening at this game? Well, especially for me, the dumb metric fan, where I'm like, you gotta win by a certain amount, boys. And they're like celebrating Bickerstaff's dunk late, and I'm like, contest.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's like, whoa, this game's so much fun. And you're like, no, we didn't win by 30. This is going to hurt our at-large chances.
It's the system feels broken sometimes, but that's okay.
Guys, in case you were curious, Bennett is a blast to watch sports with.
That's right. Cover the spread.
What are you doing? I bet you minus 19. You're only up 18. Take the shot.
Oh, man.
All right. That brings us to this week's 3-Notch Weekly Preview. We look ahead to Marshall and guess who? Georgia Southern again. This time on the road. The Dukes took down Marshall back on January 20th, 67-52. But this time they are heading to Huntington, West Virginia. Since that January 20th matchup, I think Marshall has regressed just a little bit. Their offense is one of the worst in the nation, going up against the JMU defense, which is 61st best in the nation. And then Marshall's defense doesn't wow you. They're kind of middle of the road, nothing special. So Huntington's a tough place to play, but it's not been that difficult this season, as the Thundering Herd are in a bit of a down year.
Yeah, they're not great this year. This is a super winnable game for JMU. And last time this game happened, I was like, look, both teams love to run. Sit down, watch this game. You're going to have a great time. It's going to be a ton of fun. I did it myself. And as you mentioned, 67-52 is not quite the shootout that I predicted, especially when I bet the over in that game and came about 40 points short. It was disappointing. But anyway, I don't know what to expect in this one. I think JMU actually weirdly feels comfortable grinding out Marshall and like playing a half-court game because I don't think they believe that Marshall's capable of doing it. So it could end up being a little bit more defensive and ugly because the Dukes seem to like leaning on their defense.
Yeah, and then on Saturday, February 24th, the day before my birthday, JMU goes to Statesboro, Georgia to take on Georgia Southern. Again, JMU is, according to KenPom, a 14-point favorite in that one. However, all of Georgia Southern's wins this season have come at home. So they don't win on the road
I
all
need to
that
fact
often.
check that.
All of their wins have been at home.
That's not true.
Sorry, I worded it wrong. God, you're over here being they have yet to win away from home.
Is that right?
Yeah, so they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins. 3 are home, 2 are away.
How
So
have
they
they
They have
yet to
yet
win away from home if they have 2 road wins.
What am I trying to say?
I don't know.
There's a point here.
I was like, he's pranking me. This is some sort of bit.
I don't know what I was trying to say. I think what I'm trying to say is they're better at home, kind of a little bit.
I think that's fair, though. They are a lot better at home.
That was my point. That's where I was trying to get to, and I just stumbled through bad statistics. I apologize. It's a holiday. It's a federal holiday. Coming to Black Bennett.
Here's an interesting thing about the recent home games. Their last 2 home games were losses, but both overtime. Buffalo stinks. They took App to overtime at home.
Georgia Southern is like sneaky good in conference play.
They beat Georgia State by 16 at home. Beat Southern Miss by 21 at home.
It's weird. This is in conference play. Georgia Southern has decided to stop trying to play defense, but their offense has gotten better. They're the 6th ranked offense in conference play this season. They play at an exceptionally high pace. They have the 4th quickest possession length at just 16 seconds. Their defense has suffered from it, but they're the 2nd best 3-point shooting team in conference play. They have the 2nd best effective field goal percentage. Maybe that's it. Maybe at home, their offense just takes it to even another level where opponents struggle to slow them down, and then you just get into shootouts, which kind of scares me because JMU on the road this season has struggled a little bit.
And it kind of sucks a little bit. I saw a lot of people being like, hey, it helps that they're on the road in terms of like the metrics and stuff. It does, but Georgia Southern's metrics are so bad that you mentioned it. Ken Palm's got them as a 14-point favorite. They just played him at home and won by 7 in a game that was like kind of competitive. I don't know. Like, it's going to be hard for them to improve their metrics if they need to win by 15 or more against a Georgia Southern team that's probably playing a lot better now than their 307 rating says.
Yeah, I agree. And also, the other tough part about it all is after these 2 road games, you finish out this season with 2 more road games.
Yeah, and Georgia Southern, they got 4 games at home to end the year. They're going to have all that confidence going to the Sun Belt tournament. Dark horse.
Okay, sure. Yeah, they've yet to win a neutral site this year. I can say that correctly.
That's true. Something to monitor.
I've been saying it all season. I expect JMU to maybe drop one of these down the stretch. I think if there's one that they're going to drop, hot take, it's going to be Southern.
That's a fun take. That would be brutal for their.
I mean, their at-large chances are already slim to none. What was it that I know you religiously check bracketology.
Yeah.
What is bracketology looking like right now? Is JMU on the next 4 out, first 4 out? I know they were sniffing around.
They've been sniffing around. They haven't been included yet in either the, first 4 out or next 4 out quite yet. So there's like 8 teams right there on the bubble. Maybe if they win the last, I don't know, if they get the next 4 with some commanding wins, we'll see what it looks like after that. They could be in the mix. But here's my question for you.
Hit me.
And it sounds like your answer is a no. But can they get through? So theoretically, if they're to win the Sun Belt tournament, you play 3 games. That'd be their next 7 games would then be on the road or a neutral floor. That's a hard stretch to go 7-0 with no home games.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Can they do it?
Maybe.
Will they do it?
They got to.
That's where honestly, part of me, and this isn't totally true, but like if they do drop one of the next 4 and like you get a loss, whatever, and then it's just all the eggs in the tournament basket, not the worst thing in the world.
I think all the eggs are in the tournament basket now.
Probably. That's probably true. But I guess they have the outside chance that if you win all these games by like 15 to 20.
The plus side of how it all is shaking out, though, they're going to most likely be a top 4 seed, barring some unprecedented collapse. So you do have 7 games in a row, but between the end of the season and then the start of the Sun Belt tournament, you're not playing until like March. You get like 2 weeks off, right?
I think it's at least they're definitely earlier than others, but it's at least like a week. Yeah.
Let me see. I think you don't play till Thursday of that week. So I don't
They're
think you're
weird.
playing until the 7th.
They end on like a Monday, so I think they don't play till like a Saturday.
Okay, so whatever it is, you have the double bye is what I'm getting at. So you
Yes.
miss the first 2 days of the
You'll be well
tournament.
rested, yeah.
And so your final game of the 2024 season is March 1st. So you're getting at least a week off
That's true. So it's
where
not
you
that.
do go home and you get to practice at home. They're not going from Conway, South Carolina to Pensacola to sleep in a hotel for 7 days.
And I guess on the plus side, like if you could pick 2 teams to play on the road to end the year, like Georgia Southern, Coastal, both kind of suck. Like I know Georgia Southern's playing better, but like Marshall, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Coastal Carolina, not a particularly intimidating 4.
Yeah. Except for Georgia Southern. We saw what that just happened. But anything else you want to add in this preview? What to watch for? Anything like that? Looking ahead to this weekend, a Wednesday and a Saturday game.
No, I think the at-large is pretty much dead, as much as I'm still tracking to see if they can win by 20 plus. And the issue is they can't really like pick up any great wins, where if you're like an ACC team and you're Pitt or someone, like the quality of team you're playing and the opportunity to pick up wins against good teams without having a loss hurt you is far greater than what JMU has, where JMU is expected to win each of the last 4. And if they win them by like 5 points, it's actually going to hurt them. That seems just like a really hard spot where you have to go on the road and you got to win by like 20 plus to kind of put yourself on the bubble is unlikely.
Their best chance at this point is App State continuing to win and App State winning by 20. So their net continues
Looks
to
a little
rise
better, yeah.
and that becomes a better loss. And then that in some weird roundabout way. But yeah, maybe the system's broken.
Maybe.
But all right, that brings us to women's basketball. They get back into the win column against Coastal, where they kind of thoroughly dominated the Chanticleers. But I think a really big thing coming out of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Heaven Bristow and Susha Kozlova, were out of the game. I think both in a boot. Kozlova was on a scooter. This was Coach O's comments after the game when asked about it by Daniel Merriman.
And pregame with your senior night honorees, we see Heaven, who's in a boot, as well as Susha, who's on a scooter. Is there any updates to their health?
Oh, sorry. No updates as right now. They're both out today, and we'll see what it looks like Monday, Tuesday.
It looked like it looked like he was about to talk about pasta or something.
Tommy DeVito,
Yeah.
Tommy Cutlets. So I don't think that was necessarily a rousing way to feel good about the future of Bristow and Kozlova this season. Kind of a bummer, late season injuries, but the Dukes went out and played against Coastal with both of those players on the bench, and they played very well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance they can win the Sun Belt without. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think they can do it without both. Like I think they need both.
Yeah. I mean, both are such like important pieces to the team. Like maybe they could come together and get things going, but like Kozlova is arguably the best post player in the Sun Belt. Bristow makes the offense work. And with both of them out, Goodman's very good. But I just think Kozlova is one of the best players in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, you've got like Bristow does everything well. She can score a little bit, can rebound, can pass, defends at a high level. Like, I don't know, they talked about her coming into the year completely changing how the team would look, and she's looked pretty solid since she came into the lineup halfway through the year. Kozlova's like just super efficient. And I mean, she's still averaging 7 rebounds a game, and it still feels like sometimes she could go out and get like double what she's getting on the glass, but
yeah,
elite scorer down low that you can't replace. It's kind of the thing we talked about earlier, where it puts so much pressure on McDaniel and Hazel to go out and ball that over, multiple games, needing to do that with a winner go home.
7 games.
Yeah.
Or 4.
That's going to be hard. Like you want the double bye, and if you get the double bye, then you got to win 3 in a row against pretty good teams because the top of the Sun Belt's pretty similar. Huge blow, just massive.
And this weekend, you got Georgia Southern and App both on the road. The women's team also finished their season with 4 games on the road. And it just makes it really tough because if you're fighting for that double bye, you essentially need to go 3-1 over this weekend without your 2 best players, it sounds like. Maybe, I think they said maybe they're getting Bristow back, but they have to take some time and figure it out. I don't think there's a timetable on Kozlova. This is tough injury luck again for the women's basketball Dukes.
Happens to them. It feels like very often where they've
Do you remember?
lost.
Do you remember 20? Was it 18? 20 the 2017-18 season when Lexi Barrier, Kamaya Smalls both
They all
got
got
injured
right. Yeah.
in the first game of the CAA, and then they went on an NIT run because they all got healthy.
They were definitely like a fun tournament team if they get in. And then the way they were playing during COVID, like
Yeah.
could have been like win an NCAA tournament game, kind of fun. And now this is tough because they're probably one of the top contenders or at least close, right? They're the only team to beat Marshall this year in
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah. And so it's going to be a tough weekend for them. There was a really interesting note in that press conference, the post-game press conference after the Coastal win. It was that McDaniel still has 2 years of eligibility, and Coach O is hoping she takes them. So there's no word there where he's just like, yeah, she's done after next year. He kind of made a comment of like, yeah, I hope she stays for the 2.
They should be good next year.
Should be very good next year.
McDaniel, Hazel, a bunch of other players that are pretty darn good.
They sit at 18-9 currently, 10-4 in Sun Belt play. All right, that brings us to News or Snooze, presented by Christopher William Jewelers. Bennett will give me 3 quotes or storylines, and I'll say if they're newsworthy or snoozeworthy. Ow, I just hit my knee on my desk. All right, hit me.
All right, all men's basketball here. This is from Terrence Edwards. This is post-game following senior day. He says, the next time I come here, I'll be watching instead of playing.
Oh, cute. Newsworthy. But it was known that this was his last year, I feel like.
He's made that pretty clear, like through some channels that maybe a lot of people didn't notice, but like the Uku podcast, they were talking about like transferring and NIL and all this stuff. And it sounded like he wanted to give JMU one more year. And then whatever he's doing, he would like to be compensated more than what he is.
Fantastic growth from Terrence Edwards. Every year he got exponentially better. He's now going to probably finish out his JMU career with the Sun Belt Player of the Year award. He's going to help lead JMU to a Sun Belt tournament win potentially, at least really compete in it, and maybe an NIT run or an NCAA at large, depending on how everything shakes out. Terrence Edwards is the leader of this team. Terrence Edwards means so much to this team. And I hope when he comes back to Harrisonburg to watch the games as a viewer, he doesn't have to buy a drink. I hope he doesn't have to buy a hot dog. I hope he doesn't have to go to Finnegan's Cove and smoke his own cigarette. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. And part of me hopes he goes pro. Maybe he has an NBA shot and he doesn't have to play somewhere else. And he can just only be a college Duke. But realistically, I think a Power 6 makes sense.
I think the most likely route is he explores professional opportunities. He gets feedback on what his game needs to improve on, and he goes to a Power 6.
Perhaps West Virginia.
That's good foreshadowing. Hit me with the next one.
All right. From this, let's do a Mark Byington quote, and then we'll get to our doozy of a news or snooze. Okay, this is Mark Byington talking about Georgia Southern. He says, if you look at their record and say, all right, you're supposed to do something more than that being a 7-point win, you're going to diminish how well they played.
Newsworthy. I think it is worth noting that Georgia Southern did play an exceptionally good game, and Georgia Southern, for some reason, is one of the best offenses in the Sun Belt in Sun Belt play. They're 0-13 against teams not in the Sun Belt. They're 5-7, 5-8 against teams that are in the Sun Belt. It doesn't make sense.
I kind of wish, and I know they had the Sun Belt MAC challenge. I kind of wish there were more ways for college basketball to work in like January, February non-conference games. And I know that's hard logistically because you're trying to play all your conference games, but it feels like there's a handful of Sun Belt teams that are playing significantly better basketball now than they were in November, that if they played like a random out of conference team. Like Arkansas State looks very good right now, and to start the season, they were kind of horrendous.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, where was I going? I don't know. Yeah, you're right.
You ready for the doozy?
I'm ready for this one. This was the one we foreshadowed. Hit me.
Okay, we got some rumors, and one of these, I don't know the link, but one of these was basically a Trilly Donovan, I don't want to say knockoff, but kind of a knockoff. Not as good as Trilly Donovan, but had some like college basketball rumors and scoops. And one of them was that Mark Byington is a leading candidate to get the West Virginia head coaching job. And also of note, Collegiate Sports Associates, which placed Byington with JMU, sort of paired them. It was a consulting firm that was involved with the coaching search. They were in Morgantown at West Virginia a few days ago. So they got some Byington connections. They got some West Virginia connections, potentially some smoke there.
And where there's smoke, there's fire. Is that what the saying is?
Yeah.
I think that's newsworthy. It's a little worrisome, but I'm going to throw a question at you that you kind of posed off air. Would West Virginia fans be happy with that hire, specifically if JMU doesn't win the Sun Belt tournament and is just an NIT team?
Not that sexy on paper.
Like
Especially in the Big 12.
we know how good Mark Byington is as a coach. He took a dumpster fire team and turned them into what they are now. But on paper, do you think West Virginia fans would be happy going from potentially racist Bob Huggins to Mark Byington?
Well, it's also just a tough
driving. Sorry,
tough. Well, that's probably
allegedly
a tough spot in terms of just like the conference and the coaches. If you're West Virginia, like Bill Self, Kelvin Sampson, like some of these programs and coaches,
TJ Otzelberger.
Yeah, so it's like if you're not coming out there with a brand name, I wonder how they would respond. But interesting, because I do think Byington at some point here is due for a real strong Power 6 look.
My take is I don't think he gets poached away if they don't win an NCAA tournament game.
I think that's fair because he still hasn't actually taken any team to the NIT or NCAA tournament, which isn't really a fault of his own because he's done a lot with the teams that he's coached. But if you're trying to get a Power 6 job, I feel like you need some of that to like get the fan base and everybody stoked.
Yeah. Do you want to hear his buyout if he does leave?
Yes.
This is hot off the presses. A buyout in Mark Byington's contract is sitting at $500,000 if he goes to an ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Big East, Pac-12, SEC, or American Athletic Conference school. It's $400,000 for any of the other conferences.
Not bad because it's close to like a 1-year salary, isn't it?
His 1-year salary is, why can't I find it? 440. It's more than his yearly salary. He's making 400. Let's quickly break down some Mark Byington contract stuff this was hot off the presses. Mark Byington's getting paid we'll write up a little thing on his contract that you can check out at jmusportsnews.com in a few weeks. But Byington gets paid $445,000 per year. He has some incentives boosted in this year. He's gotten a few bumps depending on how App State finishes the year. Wait, we didn't beat him. Never mind. If they beat him in the conference champion, he gets $5,000 for every top 75 RPI win.
Wow.
Or Power 5 win.
That is kind of funny though, that like winning at Michigan State can be the same payday as like neutral floor over app.
Also, he gets a $2,500 bonus for 5 games that the AED selects before the season. So there's 5 random
that's
games.
Funny.
There's 5 random games that Jeff Bourne goes, you win that one, you'll get $2,500. You win that one, you'll get an extra $2,500.
Here's a question for you. What do you think his 5 were this year?
Michigan State, Kent State, winning the Bermuda Classic.
I don't remember the name of it, but
I think winning that, and I think App twice. I don't know what else would be on.
He could have just done 3 ODU games. He could have been like, "Hey, every ODU game, it's $500. You basically play him 5 times."
He also gets $10,000 extra for 20 games, 20 wins. Another $20,000, or I guess it's then $20,000 of a bonus when his team wins 25 games.
Nice.
So he's hit that. He gets an extra $10,000 if the team finishes in the top 3, and an additional 15 if the team finishes first, including a tie.
Really? They might be
Yeah.
able to get the tie.
So, conference tournament, $5,000 for a quarterfinal win, $5,000 for a semifinal win, $10,000 for a championship win. NCAA tournament, $10,000 for getting a bid, $10,000 for per game. So not even a win, but per game played through the round of 32. So it'll be more advantageous for the JMU men's basketball head coach to get a first 4 game because he has an additional opportunity to make $10,000. $50K for participating in the Sweet 16, another $50K for participating in the Elite 8, another $75,000 for making it to the Final Four, $75,000 for making it to the championship game, and $100,000 for winning the championship.
That was, I hate that little NCAA tournament thing. Remember when JMU was like the play-in 16? I guess that was before our time, but I
First
remember
4 when they played LIU Brooklyn, a school that no longer exists.
they were. I remember early when I was on campus, there'd be people like in the athletic department. They're like, "Yeah, recent NCAA tournament win." It's like, all right, sure.
And I'm
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know where I was going with that. NIT, $5,000 for getting a bid to the NIT, $5,000 for each game played through the quarters, $30,000 for the Final Four, $30,000 for making it to the championship, $50,000 for winning the championship. He gets
only
$10,000,
$50,000 for winning a national title.
an NIT national title.
Oh, NIT. Sorry, I thought we had done NCAA tournament. What's he get if he wins the national championship?
$100,000.
That still feels low.
But with everything else in front of that,
It's a lot.
He could essentially make his yearly salary if they go on a run.
$50,000 for an NIT title. Huh.
$10,000 for Sun Belt Coach of the Year, $20,000 for National Coach of the Year. Those are all the big ones.
Nice.
Mark Byington contract talk, baby.
We love Marky Mark.
All right, where do you want to go from here?
Let's go swim and dive. Let's give him some shine.
All right.
Sunbelt Conference Championship. The Sunbelt offers swimming again. JMU wins conference championship. First team this year, I believe, to win a conference title, even though they've had volleyball, men's soccer, women's soccer, get at larges. Obviously, football
wasn't able to.
Yeah.
But yeah, first Sun Belt team to win a conference championship.
Good stuff.
And they did it in kind of dominating fashion, set a ton of conference championship records, smashed a ton of them. This isn't the first time ever that the Sun Belt has had women's swim and dive. They had it in the early 2000s, so they just brought it back after the whole realignment a few years ago. But they brought it back. JMU dominated the event, beat 3 other teams, and they set a ton of conference championship records in the process.
Yeah, they were really good individually and everyone. I think head coach Dane Peterson had a quote after where he was obviously stoked that they've won their 6th conference title now in 7 seasons, which is really cool. He also said that this one is for Mr. Bourne as a retirement gift from our program to him, which I thought was a fun add to a quote there. But pretty good stuff, right? 6 out of the last 7.
Pretty good.
All right, better than pretty good. 6 out of the last 7. And then last year, as I get blinded by the sun.
I was going to say, you're riding a line of shade.
Last year, they did not win, and they were 2nd, I think, in their conference last year. But Alexa Holloway set a Sunbelt championship record and a Sunbelt record in the 1-meter dive. Madison Cottrell was really good in a bunch of different things. Jamie Cornwell won the 100 free and I think set a championship record. And then several Sunbelt championship relay records, 200 free relay, 200 medley, 400 free, 400 medley. So kind of dominant from start to finish over the 4-day event. They've been in a lot of conferences, as Daniel Merriman's pointing out here, and they just won a lot. They're one of those programs that I think probably gets overlooked, similar to like volleyball, and maybe even like men's soccer. I think gets overlooked given the national success they've had. Hard to be an Olympic sport, but they're killing it.
Yeah, they are. They continue to win. They continue to get the hardware. And like Daniel Merriman said, 3 conferences in 3 years, winning 2 of those 3. They dominated the CAA when they were in the CAA back when it was the Colonial. And now it seems like they're primed to continue dominating now the Sun Belt. after winning the Sun Belt Championship in dominating fashion.
Maybe they'll add some more teams. Who knows?
More teams?
They only have 4 teams in the Sun Belt.
Oh, I thought you meant like more teams within the JMU Swim and Dive team, and I was like, there's only swim and dive. I don't know.
Like synchronized swimming, and
water polo.
That'd be crazy if they were just like started playing water polo.
All right, let's move to lacrosse because lacrosse is undefeated. They just took down UConn in an absolute thriller, and after destroying Virginia Tech last Wednesday, they come back up in Maryland, take on a good UConn squad, and won by 1 goal, right?
Yeah, and probably closer than they would have liked it to be. They were up 10-4 at one point at halftime. They were also up 14-9. They ended up winning 15-14. So got tight there at the end, but a nice win over a UConn team that was ranked. So they've got a couple of ranked wins, then a blowout win over Virginia Tech. They seem, every part the bit of a national title contender. Long way to go, but they're playing well.
Long way to go, but a fantastic, probably the picture perfect, the exact start they wanted if they thought that the national championship would be how they finished the year. Like, you got to beat UNC. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Great start.
A great start. 2 ranked wins and 3 games played.
I got to get rid of my blind because I'm losing my sliver.
Your light just went completely dark. As Bennett makes a lot of loud noises.
I'm getting blinded.
The best part,
it still doesn't even work. These blinds suck.
Best part of that was you turning off your camera, so all of a sudden,
I know why grimaces. I was like, I'll do it quietly, and then I started just.
Oh no! And we lost Bennett throughout this whole process. He makes his blinds go down, and then he breaks his Wi-Fi connection in the process. You hate to see it. While we try to get him back, we'll take a quick listen to our friends over at Christopher William Jewelers, because I want Bennett to be here when we talk baseball on the other side of this ad from Christopher William Jewelers after they beat number 3/2, depending on what top 25 you're looking at. So we'll be right back.
There's a reason Christopher William Jewelers has been voted best of Virginia year after year. It's not just one thing that sets us apart. It's everything. It's the selection, extensive and unmatched, with every engagement ring, loose diamond, and fashion jewelry chosen for quality and brilliance. It's the service. From our diamond experts to our master goldsmith, our team shares a passion for what they do, and it shows. It's the atmosphere, both glamorous and laid back. See for yourself why people can't stop talking about Christopher William Jewelers in Harrisonburg and Weir's Cave.
Guess who's back? Back again. Bennett's back.
What'd I miss?
I threw us to that ad so that you could be here for when we talk baseball, taking down number 3 Arkansas.
Well,
and
apologize.
Then today they lost to number 2 Arkansas.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense, but whatever.
Duke's won one of the 4 games. 1-3 now on the season.
And
what?
Are you sorry?
No.
Okay, so why would you not be sorry? They beat number 3 Arkansas. They're basically a shoe-in to make a regional now. I don't understand.
So, like, the season's really long, and like, it is an awesome win, but you went up against their Sunday starter. So, like, in college baseball, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably understand this, but I just have to say it for my own, like, mental well-being. Coaches don't know what their weekend rotation is coming into the first weekend. If you're looking at weekend rotations when they hit conference play compared to what they started the season with, you'll be shocked by just how different it is. You go into it hoping that you get it right with your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starter. Typically how it's kind of laid out is Friday and Saturday are your 2 better starting pitchers, and your Sunday guy is a good starting pitcher, but isn't necessarily your go-to arm. Your midweek guy, normally you just kind of do a bullpen day with midweek. Maybe your starter goes 2, and then you kind of pitch together some things through the middle. But I don't know, like, cool, you beat their Sunday guy 7-3. They still had 10 hits. and they were just unable to muster enough scores. JMU also had 10 hits. You just got timely pitching, and you did exactly what you needed to do to win. I'm not fully sold on it. Maybe I'm being rude. Mason Molina was their starter. Mason Molina for Arkansas is a left-handed junior transferred in from Texas Tech. He was good at Texas Tech, but this is his first year with Arkansas. So I don't know. I'm not 100% sold. And then today they lose 4-0. They lost to a true freshman starting who went 5 innings, striking out 4 across the 18 batters he faced, allowing just 3 hits. And then every other pitcher allowed just 1 hit, striking out 5 across 4.
Yeah, so they lose the first game of the series 6-4. Lose the Saturday game 15-5, got run ruled. Then they go out, they get the Saturday win 7-3 and lose 4-0. So
you get the Sunday win. Sunday win.
Monday loss. Competitive. 3 of the games were competitive. 1 of the games was not. They picked up 1 win over the 4. I think all in all, pretty good. But at the same time, I feel like I can barely spin there long enough. We talked about this. Like, the goal is to make a regional. You don't make a regional in February.
Exactly. You don't. Not only do you not make a regional in February, you don't make a regional on the first Sunday of the season.
Yeah.
You don't make a regional in the first series of the weekend. We saw some crazy things happen around college baseball this weekend. And none of it really means that much because it's like a 50-game season. A lot can happen. You have Virginia Tech on Wednesday. If you're able to pull out a win against Virginia Tech at home, that's a very good Virginia Tech team. That offensive lineup returns their entire infield. Carson DiMartini, their third baseman, he's a monster who is the second best prospect heading into the MLB draft this year in the ACC. You got Clay Grady, a fantastic defensive shortstop, Christian Martin at second, and then Chris Cannizzaro in left field is a dude. This last weekend, he went 6 for 7 or 6 for 8 across Saturday and Sunday against Charlotte. Just mashed for like 7 RBIs. So if you're able to play well against Virginia Tech, I will be a little bought in. But as of right now, cool. You got a top ranked win. Can you string it together? Can you go sweep Fairfield this weekend? How about Cornell? What about that weird midweek series you have against Niagara?
A lot of baseball left. Heck of a win.
Great win. But you got 6 good ass teams in the Sun Belt this season. And you're
really good teams. And you mentioned Virginia Tech. Fairfield's not dreadful. Picked to win their conference. I think there was like 37-18 last year. I caution people to get too excited right about an Arkansas win if you can't follow it up, like you're saying, by picking up some series wins in the non-conference, but then also doing that in league play because they got off to that horribly slow start in conference play last year and then had a nice surge, but they were still, 500 in conference, and I feel like they gave up too many in the non-conference. There's a lot of baseball left.
The whole season is left. And now that I think about it, you could technically say that at any point in the season.
The whole season being left?
Yeah. But like with this, that stands true because you have done one series, you lost it, you looked good and competitive in them, but at the end of the day, you're 1-3. I want baseball to be successful. And it makes me excited that they were competitive in all the games except for Saturday. It does kind of worry me that they weren't good on Saturday.
That's fair.
Because that's supposed to be your best starter.
You are the baseball boy. You watch Virginia Tech. Do you think they have a good shot in that game, or at least a shot? And then what do you think about this stretch? What are you looking for when we go Fairfield, Mason, Cornell, VMI Richmond, ETSU, Niagara? Is that like you want them to win 80% of those?
Yeah, you got to win every one of those series. The midweeks are weird. So the midweeks, be competitive. If you lose a few of them, I guess that's all right. But I mean, don't lose too many of them. Like Virginia Tech this weekend, or I guess this Saturday, sorry. It'll be interesting to see who they send out, because this weekend they essentially use like their entire pitching staff, and some of their pitchers look really good. Some of their pitchers look a little shaky. So I think it'll tell you a lot about how John Sheff, the head coach at Virginia Tech, views this Duke squad. If he's sending out one of their bad pitchers to start this game, I think that might be a sign that he doesn't have too much faith in JMU, and the scouting report says they're not that strong. Now, if he sends out one of his better arms, I think that will say that he thinks the Dukes are a little bit better than what necessarily the overall record says. That lineup, though, is going to give JMU pitchers a ton of problems. Like a ton of problems. They're
Over
all
under
good.
6.5 runs.
Over under 6.5 runs for Virginia Tech?
Yeah.
Over. Virginia Tech's going to average 10 runs a game this season.
That's a lot of runs.
They essentially did it this weekend.
Yeah, but they'll get some tougher 10 runs. What was the national average last?
Okay, they'll average like my take is that Virginia Tech will average. Come back to this, clip it, and come back to this because we're a JMU pod, and I'm making a Virginia Tech prediction. Virginia Tech will average 7.34 runs this season.
Okay, come back to this. Virginia Tech men's basketball tonight takes down UVA. They're favorite.
Okay. All right, hot take. But Virginia Tech's lineup is just like dude after dude after dude, MLB guy after MLB guy after MLB guy. So that's going to pose a problem for JMU's pitching staff.
You're more of a baseball nerd, but I love me some college baseball. What do you think? How do you think the Arkansas series gets viewed at the end of the year? Because it'll be like quad one or whatever, right? They're like a national title contender on paper, at least right now.
Yeah.
So you get one of the wins, which is a great win. But you're 1-3 against quad.
I don't think it'll matter. 3. I do not think that win will matter at the end of the season.
Because they lost the other 3?
Because they lost the other 3, and you got run ruled in one of them. And you didn't put up a single run in another one. Like, yeah, a 4-0 a loss by 4 is competitive, but you didn't put up a run. And then in the one game you did win 7-3, you got the same amount of hits. So sometimes to me, like in baseball, you can almost tell more about a team by the amount of hits they have. Do you follow my logic on that?
Yeah, if I'm saying if you're dominating like the hit total.
Yeah, like the difference between that Sunday win was JMU had more timely hitting, which is really important. And Arkansas probably stranded a ton of guys, but I don't know. It wasn't like they dominated them. It's not like Arkansas scored 3 runs on 2 hits. They scored 3 runs on 10 hits. JMU scored 7 runs on 10 hits.
I feel you.
But at the end of the year, long answer to your question, I don't think we look at this Arkansas win as like, yes.
Let's say they lose to Virginia Tech 1-4. Positive, or is it still a negative?
I'm still negative. Yeah. Like I'm negative after the series sitting at 1-3 because you held Arkansas to just 4 runs on Monday and you couldn't muster a single one against a freshman starter.
Yeah, I think there's some positives there, but I would kind of agree with you that it's not maybe as much of a like, wow,
it's
could be.
Maybe I'm just being really mean about it, but like to me, winning a one-off game in baseball, in college baseball, doesn't mean too much if you lose the series or can't split the series.
I think I agree largely because sometimes you'll play like a Power 5 like Arkansas in a midweek and you just get the one. This is not that type of scenario where like if you're Arkansas, you're playing a JMU team that finished at 100 in the RPI last year. You won the series 3-1. You're not like pissed about that. You're not like, oh man, you know, I mean, you probably would like to have gotten the sweep, but you're still taking a series win. If you do that every series, you're pretty.
They got outscored by 12.
Yeah.
They got run ruled over 4 games.
What if they win 3 of the next 4? So they beat Tech and they win the Fairfield series, but don't sweep it. They're 4-4 with a win over Arkansas, a win over Tech, and a series win over Fairfield.
Then I'm excited for this team.
Okay, pressure's on.
I'm excited. I don't think they win against Virginia Tech. I think they lose 12-3.
Okay, what if they lose that one, but then sweep Fairfield?
It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
I think you got to win Virginia Tech for me to be starting to buy in.
I hear you. And then you kind of go after Virginia Tech, you kind of go a while before you can really get like a statement win again.
Yeah,
Because you
but the
got,
whole Sun Belt conference schedule is statement wins.
well, that's what I'm saying though. Like you literally don't have a game against a team that's legit until you play Coastal on March 15th. So it's kind of like if you don't get that one, you might be playing with fool's gold for a month where you're like, we got something, we beat Arkansas and we're getting some series wins. And then you get into Sun Belt and you like, run into a wall.
So Coastal and Texas State, the first two Sun Belt series this season,
Yeah.
both are like top end mid major schools. Coastal is a ranked team, I'm pretty sure, or is like
Not getting
sniffing
swept
votes.
in those would be good. I don't know. It's going to be brutal.
Going 2-4 in those would be fine. But
But they
okay,
they need to beat up on these crappy non-conference teams.
yes, that's the point. They got to do it, and they got to take advantage of Virginia Tech in a midweek.
At home, because they play them again later in the year in Blacksburg, and that's going to be very hard.
Yes, got to do it at home. But a team that is getting it done on a night in, night out, day in, day out basis, softball.
They might have dogs. Okay, they might be dogs this year. And they beat Villanova in the first game of this weekend. So their weekend series, they lose the Saturday games because it was like 35 degrees and snowed a little bit. Not great weather for softball. So they didn't play those games. But on Friday, they beat Villanova. They're up 4-3. They give up a 2-run shot. Then they have a walk-off grand slam from Bella Hensler. That's a big one. Villanova, the Big East preseason favorite. They're top 75 in the RPI last year. Later that day, they take care of Lehigh pretty comfortably. They play Lehigh again on Saturday. And Fleet kind of got shelled a little bit. Kind of the first time she's faced some real adversity this weekend. Early in her college career, she had kind of a tough outing. They're down 9-4. They end up winning 17-9 via run rule. So we're talking about the lineup needing to wake up. I would say that qualifies. That's a very impressive performance picking up your pitcher. And then Alyssa Humphrey was great against George Mason. They win 7-0. So they go a perfect 4-0 over the weekend. They're 8-1 on the year. And I think probably kicking themselves they're not 9-0 because the Southern Miss game, they left like 11 on base in a one-run loss. Great start through 9. Fleet had some tough performances, but Humphrey's been good. The offense looks good.
Humphrey, you tweeted this.
Yeah.
Check it out on JMU Sports News. 20 innings pitched, a .35 ERA, a .55 whip with 21 strikeouts, averaging just over a strikeout per inning pitched.
Welcome back from injury, right? That's darn good.
That's amazing.
We love that. And they're going to have, I think, some of their toughest games probably of the entire season this upcoming weekend, where we're going to learn a lot more about just how good they are. They play Charlotte twice. Charlotte's legit. You know, you're a Charlotte boy. They've got wins over, they beat Florida State. They beat Texas Tech already this year.
The Florida State win was a little fluky. If you look at the very next game for Charlotte against Florida State, they lost like 11-3.
But they have a win over.
That's like us getting hype over JMU's win over Arkansas. That's like Virginia Tech, a Virginia Tech fan podcast going like, yeah, they're 1-3, but they have a win over Arkansas.
Okay, well, Charlotte was a tournament team last year.
Charlotte is very good at softball.
Yes.
They have 2 stud pitchers that is going to pose a lot of problems for the JMU lineup. Keep an eye on Sam Gress. She is absolutely phenomenal in the circle for the 49ers. It's a good team. I'm just being mean.
I give them credit for the win. They're better than Florida State.
Okay.
No, they're a solid team. South Carolina ranked team. This is a tournament that's hosted by South Carolina. So they play Charlotte and South Carolina on Friday. That's going to be tough, but also interesting to see what they do pitching wise, who you give the nod to start against Charlotte and who starts against South Carolina. Play Charlotte again on Saturday. And then they have South Alabama and UMass on Sunday. South Alabama picked to finish second in the Sun Belt and knocked them out of the conference tournament last year. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't meet in the conference season. Same with Southern Miss. So good opportunity there to play a quality conference team. If they can get 3-2 out of this weekend, I think that'd be phenomenal. If you can avoid 1-4, though, that would also be solid. So you're looking at 2 or 3 wins, I think would be good. Anything above that would be kind of phenomenal.
I agree. So that brings us to the final segment of today's episode. Listener questions as it's golden hour on Bennett's face. Looking
I'm gonna fire
absolutely
these at
fantastic.
you.
Okay, you're looking absolutely fantastic in this golden hour. Hit me.
First one from our guy Ben Hofer. Does the new Buckies sway Jordan McLeod to return for his final year of eligibility?
I don't think it sways the coaching staff to offering him to return for his final year of eligibility.
I think it sways him. I think the new
I
Buckies.
I think the music is turned off and he is left without a chair.
Oh God. Okay. From Daniel Merriman, Eikenberry apology.
No.
Just wanted to give you another chance, just in case.
I think there's 2 questions about an Eikenberry apology.
Man, I hope they go on like a 25-game winning streak.
I hope so too. I hope that I have to come on with like a full written statement apologizing to Marlon Eikenberry and the staff, and say if they win the next 25, I will say give him a lifetime contract.
I like that. All right.
It took 8 years, but he finally built something.
Also from Daniel Merriman, percentage chance the Dukes make the NCAA tournament for men's basketball and then women's basketball.
50-50 for men's, 25-75. 25% they do make it for women's.
I like that.
Especially that's factoring in the 2 injuries.
Okay. This is from I Gonna Wreck You. Is there a single sport we aren't good at?
Please look at the replies on it.
Daniel Merriman, rough year for field hockey, but that's about it. Accurate, and then men's tennis has kind of been like mid for a while. But anyway,
yeah. Baseball, also baseball. Can't say that we're good at baseball yet.
Yeah, too early. But I do kind of love. I saw all the accounts that were just like another huge win for JMU. Those athletic programs are cruising with the Arkansas win. And there were some replies that were like, all right, they're going for a series split tomorrow. So why don't you calm down? Like Arkansas fans. It was like,
idiots. Also, what a turnaround, though. Monday game in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Wednesday game back home against Virginia Tech.
Could have done without the 4 games, especially having won the 3rd game. They should be like, we're sick. We're all sick. Goodbye. Postpone.
Sorry, we booked our flight on the wrong day. We got to get out of here.
But it's not a forfeiture. All right. From Meerkat, 1457.
Opie.
That's right. How can the university improve attendance for sports like women's basketball? Senior night attendance was not great.
It's kind of funny. As men's basketball attendance has improved over the last few years, women's basketball attendance has gotten progressively worse. I think they're kind of hand in hand. I think someone responded to him there was like, you can't do it unless you bring in a person like Caitlin Clark. I think if you put a consistently dominant winning product on the field, on the court, you'll get fans there. And that's what they had during the Kenny Brooks into the early parts of the Coach O era. Pair that with the fact that men's was so bad that just basketball hungry people would just go to women's basketball to watch winning. It's a tough question. How do I think they can improve the attendance? More marketing nights, like more kind of one-off fun events. But I think at the end of the day, it's not saying that the women's basketball team isn't great. They are one of the top teams in the Sun Belt. But until you kind of return back to that dominance that there was, I don't know if women's basketball will have the type of attendance it had in the early 2010s or mid 2010s.
Yeah, it's hard because especially if it's a doubleheader, there's going to be people who pick one game over the other, and they're picking the men if the men are like 24-3, right?
Yeah.
So that's tough. But yeah, I would agree that they could do some stuff where if it's a doubleheader, maybe there's more giveaway stuff for students. And some of the doubleheaders, they've kind of just had like obviously the short end of the stick scheduling wise, like Thursday at 5:00.
Yeah, on a beautiful day.
Yeah, like that's not gonna, students aren't gonna go to that one. So
but like giveaways, like free t-shirts, cool t-shirts, get people through the door, do things like that. Give them a better time slot, give them the second of the doubleheader. Do it where you're putting women's basketball first because it's a fun product. It's a fun environment. We've gone to a lot of women's basketball games in the last few years at the AUBC. Yeah. They're fun. They've won. They win consistently at home. So if you haven't gone out, I'd highly suggest checking out a women's basketball game.
Yes. Well said. Okay, this is from JMU fan 1997. What's up with the college football game? JMU in it?
You can check all that out at www.jmusportsnews.com. We have all the information you need on it.
And yes, they're in the game.
Whoa,
Okay.
man, get them to go to the website.
I feel like everyone knows that by this point.
Not
This
JMU fan 1997.
I think this one's impossible to answer from Billy Matthews Jr. Are there any Georgia State players as targets for transfers in the spring, other than Diablo? Obviously, I don't think that's an obvious target at all.
I'm going to go with no.
They're not even in the portal yet, so it's they lost their coach.
And JMU just like boat raced that team by 60.
Yeah, I also think Diablo was like a Signetti recruit, so I don't think Chesney's like licking his chops to go, or if he's even transferring. So I don't. No obvious recruits.
No
there.
obvious.
Okay, from Kyle Helmick. This is a good one. Reaction to rumors that Byington has a handshake agreement with West Virginia to become their head coach in the offseason. Obviously, there's going to be a hiring process for West Virginia, blah, blah, blah. And how would you feel compared to when Kurt Signetti left if Byington happened to leave?
I'd be kind of more appreciative as long as he puts out a thank you graphic, anything's fine. I'd be more appreciative with Byington leaving than I think with Signetti, because I think Mark Byington would put out a thank you graphic and, would handle it with grace in class, something that, other people just didn't do.
Yeah. I don't know if it's handshake agreement yet either.
I don't know if it is either.
Right?
I also, I kind of with you, if they don't win an NCAA tournament game, if they don't make it to the NCAA tournament, I think Mark Byington would be, we know how great of a coach he is. I would argue he's the best coach in JMU men's basketball history from what he took this program to the heights that I think it's on the trajectory to become. With that being said, I don't think Mark Byington is a coach, if they don't make the NCAA tournament this year, that you can sell to a Big 12 fan base.
Yeah, I kind of agree there as well. And RIP Lefty, as we talk about the greatest coaches
Lefty
in basketball history.
Lefty did a ton to get JMU into national relevancy and was awesome in the 90s for JMU.
And I would say Byington, if he does leave, I feel pretty good because he took a program that was like in disarray and sort of, brought him back up, where Signetti inherited a team that was pretty good and made them better than that.
And only won one title.
He only won one
Sam
title.
Houston State meltdown, and you didn't have a thank you graphic.
He couldn't win big games. He couldn't do thank you graphics. He wasn't as nice as I wanted him to be to the media. He doesn't look like Bob Chesney.
He's actually looks like my uncle, and I don't appreciate that, okay? Daniel Merriman asked, is Chesney going to pick up more transferred defensive backs in the spring? I hope so.
Okay, from Mangy Dog, is Fat Terrence
Fat? Is Fat coming back?
Basically, is Fat coming back? And then I was going to say Fat, aka Terrence Edwards. And so I said Terrence Edwards. I was just like, Fat Terrence Edwards. Is he coming back, or is he ready to move on?
I think he's ready to move on.
Yeah,
everything that he has said has made me believe that he's ready to move on.
Yeah. Okay, from Stephen Agee. Update on the athletic director search.
They've kept this one really close to the chest. There's no updates.
Haven't heard.
The vest? I think that's the saying, close to the vest.
It could be either, close to anything.
Okay, close to.
Yeah, I haven't heard any updates, but I've got my list of people.
Who's your list?
Anybody who's willing when they leave to put out a thank you graphic.
Bleed Purple Nation at Dukes SN. What do you think the ceiling? What do you think the ceiling is for these baseball and softball teams? Possible floors too. Floor for baseball is last place in the Sun Belt. I'm eating up the hater mentality.
The ceiling feels like
Fourth.
Omaha, though.
Oh,
I mean, like a rematch with Arkansas to win the whole thing.
I think the ceiling is way too aggressive. Like, we just laid the foundation, and me and Bennett are sitting here with the blueprints, and we're like, why don't we take off the ceiling and raise it 4 more floors? I think the ceiling in that case is the NCAA regional.
Yeah, I think a ceiling is probably a regional. Softball ceiling also feels like a regional.
I don't know if their offense can play like that 17-run game, might be a super.
We'll see with the pitching staff. They can keep the consistency.
Okay.
That'd be cool if they were making a run at it. We'll learn more. But yeah, they definitely have, I would say they have a higher ceiling than baseball.
I think the floor for softball is middle of the pack in the Sun Belt, but I think that'd be a catastrophic falling apart.
It would be disappointing if they aren't making a really good regional push, given the offense coming alive a little bit last weekend.
And Dan Miller, wanna be or bad? Chances
of JMU sponsoring men's lacrosse.
I'd negative 1%. The amount of things that would have to happen for that to happen, too much.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much of a push for that. It would it'd be sweet if the new AD came in and everyone's like, how are you going to steer JMU in this crazy future? Like, are you going to pay athletes like employees? Like, are you going to try to have the Dukes in the big leagues? And he's like, I don't know. I just want a men's lacrosse team. That's my focus.
Would be electric. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Congratulations to JMU Swim Dive picking up a massive conference championship win, representing the first conference championship for JMU this year. And we'll talk to you guys next week. For Bennett Conlon, I'm Jack Fitzpatrick. Thank you so much for tuning into the JMU Sports News Podcast, presented by the one, the only, the Bet Online. See ya.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.